What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Johnny VTV Live on Wednesday, December 28th. Join with me, somebody I haven't seen in a long time, my co-host, the original OG co-host, Nick Durst. What's happening, baby? How we doing?
I'm back, better than ever, perhaps. I'm doing really well. How was your Christmas and Christmas Eve? And let me hear it. Well, what'd you eat?
It was good, man. Christmas Eve, we did really well. So one of our favorite restaurants, one of the best Italian restaurants in New Jersey, Shrimp Franchise. It was
Wow.
unbelievable.
Did they give you a lot of shrimp?
Did a little shrimp. We had a nice scungio fra diavolo over some spaghetti. Really good. A lot of good appetizers, stuffed mushrooms, shrimp cocktail. Like it was a ton of good stuff. And the list goes on and on with the amount of good eats that we have. What about you? How was yours? What'd you eat?
Did it had a really nice 2 days of eating. Really haven't stopped eating. I think usually we just eat from Christmas through New Year's, and then we gotta reset. I think I'm up 5 or 6 pounds since last Friday, which is disgusting. But had a nice little food review on at Nick's Food and Stuff Instagram for my Christmas Eve. We had some, the fish salad. We had some pizza to start things off. Then we had some pasta with a bunch of different sauce options. And then the main event had a bunch of different things. The rib roast prime rib was the star of the show. Had the fried shrimp as well. Some potatoes. I mean, tons of stuff nonstop. And then Christmas Day turned it around. Raviolis, more rib roast, chicken franchise, turkey, a lot of desserts. Really bad eating. So looking forward to eating some more this weekend for New Year's, and then getting back to some normal eating habits.
On mute. Love to see that. It's definitely a good week for football, food, and we got another one coming up. And speaking of football, like this is down to the nitty gritty, right? So we have 2 more weeks left until the playoffs wild card weekend, and a lot of teams are already decided their fates. But we have a couple ones like the Commanders, the Giants, the Jets, the Seahawks, the Dolphins that still haven't sealed their fate. So with that being said, whether a team that's already in or a team that's not in yet, which team do you think makes the most noise in the playoffs?
Well, I think as far as a team that's not in yet, I guess I'd go with the Giants just because I feel like the NFC is really not as top heavy, Johnny, as you know. Eagles, they got injuries now, of course. Giants played the Vikings pretty well. The 49ers just seems like in the postseason, Shanahan can't figure it out. So I would say maybe they have a shot to, win a game, make some movement there. Can't count out the Packers. I think if the Packers get in, they're going to be dangerous. I could definitely see them making a run for sure. And as far as, teams that are already in that are going to make noise, I think you just got to look at the AFC side of things. I think the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals, and your Chargers are better than any team in the NFC.
That's a fair point. I like the Packers angle because I was thinking about that. And, I think if you like Green Bay, I would take a ticket on them to win the NFC because it's a pretty good price right now, about 14-1 range. And listen, Green Bay still has to have a lot happen, but I think it's definitely possible. And, if they get in, they're probably the 7th seed. They're going to play loose. They're not going to care. They're going to let it fly. And I think let's say they got in as a 7th seed and they played the Vikings. I think that could be a first-round upset. But I would definitely be weary of the Niners. I think the Niners are the real deal. I think they're going to make the Super Bowl. I don't know if they're going to win it. I think, they're probably going to get the Giants in the wild card week. Niners should be 6.5 point favorites there. And I think realistically speaking, the Niners just match up too well. Like, I just think the way their defense is playing, the number 1 overall defense led by my defensive player of the year, Nicky Bosa, the Bosa constrictor. I think he's going to have a big game and really set Daniel Jones back to those turnovers pre-Brian Daboll. outside of Saquon Barkley, they don't have much, so I think it really won't be much of a contest, and the Niners are just going to absolutely swamp them in the first game of the wild card shot.
I think my best bet for wild card weekend would be the Buccaneers to beat the Cowboys. I think if the Bucs get in, especially with a losing record, I think they'll definitely beat the Cowboys. And I don't see how they don't get in with a losing record at this point.
I'm just kind of waiting to see what's going on with Tampa Bay. If they make it, and I just feel like Dallas will probably be like -2 at home.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm sorry, no, on the road. What am I saying? Yeah, on the road.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought Dallas was going to be at home on this one, but I just think this is like a weird game, though. No, I just everybody's waiting.
The thing is, I think Bowles is horrible. He should never coach again as a head coach after this season. He's cost them a ton of games. If they didn't have him, they would have been probably clinched already. Easily picked them to win this game, but it's just that Corey Parson Cowboys jinx, where it's just like the Cowboys just can't get it done in the postseason. And I don't see anything from this team that makes me think they're any different than past teams.
I think I mean, I could see them winning Tampa Bay. I feel like that's like a coin flip game. But I just think, and I said it with Corey earlier, whoever wins this game between likely Tampa Bay and Dallas, I think they're done after that. I think they get bounced. I don't think they win another game in the playoffs this year.
Could you imagine the Buccaneers hosting the Packers in the NFC Championship game?
That'd be funny again. Nick, so two teams that are on the cusp, and unfortunately with a loss, one of them is going to be pretty much eliminated. And it sucks because I wanted to see both of them in. I have heavy future stakes in both of these teams, and I actually have a ticket on each of these coaches to make it. So do you think it's going to be the New York Jets or the Seattle Seahawks that wins and keep their playoff hopes alive?
Well, they're playing each other this weekend. I'd love to see a tie. I think that the Jets are going to win this game because I don't know if they're necessarily the better team, but we saw Geno Smith struggle last week against the Chiefs, and Mike White's back. So Mike White always tends to work some magic, and I don't necessarily know if he's going to have a fantastic game, but we know the players rally around him, and whenever he makes his first start or whatever of a season or comes back for an injury now, they always seem to play their best football. And I think they're going to win this game, and that's going to eliminate Seattle. But, I've been saying from maybe like week 4, week 5, me and Joe Calabrese, we were in Las Vegas, a little business for you know I'm right. Jets are playing well. Like, Joe, I see it now. It's going to come down to week 18. It's going to be a win in your end game for the Jets, and they're going to lose. And that's how I still see it playing out.
You know what? I'm going to take Seattle here because Seattle, like the Jets, who both should have waltzed into the playoffs and pretty much locked up a spot 3 weeks ago, but because they were just pretty much losing every game over the last 5 or 6 weeks, are leaving it out to dry like this. But I think Seattle gets back on track. I just do. I think Seattle is the better team than the Jets, and I believe that because of the quarterback. I think Geno Smith's he's a very good quarterback this year. This is
a big revenge game for Geno Smith.
Yeah, exactly. And like the thing with Mike White, and I like the Mike White start, but he's coming off broken ribs. Like we don't even know how he is yet. Like he's cleared to play, but he could still be really hurting, and he could still be able to, be a little bit vulnerable back there. And I'm not totally
the Jets, Johnny. They got a decent record, okay, but they have no idea what they're doing as far as a quarterback development goes, and as far as calling an offensive game plan is.
Yeah.
Last week we're playing them at MetLife. Horrible winds. It's windy, it's rainy. How do you run the ball only 12 times? I know you got your guys are out, but run the ball, hand it off, because everyone knew if you just have Zach Wilson go out there and sling it, it's not going to work out. That's exactly what they game plan. And why not at least, with Wilson there, do some run pass option, do some design run plays, get him out of the pocket where he's comfortable. No, they're just like, let's have him throw the ball a million times, run the ball. That's how the Jets had any success early on in the season, and that's what they should still try to do. I understand Mike White; he's probably going to throw the ball 40-something times, but you got to have some sort of running game, and only running the ball 12 times in torrential weather. It was really stupid coaching.
I agree. I don't really know what's going on with them. I think Seattle, even though they're in a skid here, I still think, Tyler Lockett might come back. He still had that surgery on the broken finger. And, where I think the Jets could win the game is on the defensive side of the ball up front, particularly swamping a Seattle offensive line that's kind of been suspect. And, it's going to be a good match, especially Sauce Gardner is going to probably draw a good amount of one or the other, DK or Tyler Lockett, if they play. I just think Seattle makes one more play here. I think their offense is better. Defense, the Jets are definitely better, but I just think the better quarterback is going to make the play at the end. That's going to be Geno Smith. In the revenge game, yeah, it's traveling west to east. That's definitely tougher than east to west, but I think Seattle, with their season on the line, is the ones that come in and get this done. And it begs the question, if let's say Seattle secures a playoff berth, or the Jets even secure a playoff berth, I kind of want to know if there's any shot that either Carroll or Saleh win Coach of the Year over Sirianni or over Shanahan. Because don't forget, these are two teams that had projected win totals of about 5.5. Not only do they crush those, but they get in the playoffs, one or the other. If that happens, I wonder if they're still alive, battling the likes of like a Doug Peterson or Shanahan or Sirianni, who might be 15-2 type of thing.
What about Dable if they win 9 games?
Nah, I think Dable's done. I don't think Dable's going to get it.
No, I think that of the playoff teams, like the Giants definitely have the worst roster.
That's true. I mean, they've also had the easiest schedule, too. They've won a lot of games that they shouldn't have won. I mean, Dable is definitely in consideration. I just think now at this late juncture,
I don't think Saleh has any chance because of the way they just totally botched the whole offense and quarterback situation.
Well, I personally would think Saleh should have a better shot to win than Dable if the Jets got in the playoffs.
I think if the Lions get in, Dan Campbell should be Coach of the Year.
Well, that was my preseason Coach of the Year pick, based on that whole thing that the Lions are going to make the playoffs, and that happens, and Dan Campbell's going to win Coach of the Year. It's still a big if, right? The Lions got to play
got to win out.
Yeah, the Lions got to win out. The Packers, they have to play right next week.
Week 18 is Packers Lions, and that's going to be the winner of that game. I think is going to be going to the playoffs. That'll probably be the NBC game, Sunday Night Football.
That is in Green Bay. That's in the cold. The Lions don't like the cold. I'm very interested in that game. There's a lot of futures implications in here. I got Sauce Gardner, both coaches for Coach of the Year. Geno, comeback player of the year. Garrett Wilson, offensive rookie of the year. There's a lot on the line here. This is a big game for us. But let's move on. Speaking of the Packers, we have the Packers -3 hosting the Minnesota Vikings. Now, this line jumped out to me. Do you remember when the Vikings played the Lions a couple weeks ago? And everybody was like, oh, my God, the Lions are a 5-win Lion team, is 2-point favorites against the 10-win Vikings. And my whole theory was the public, were going to be like, oh, that's wrong. That shouldn't be right. We're going to hammer the Vikings. We're going to hammer the Vikings, which I knew was completely incorrect, but it was going to happen. That's why I was all over the Lions. Here, I'm kind of surprised in the same fashion here that Green Bay's still a 3-point favorite at home. I thought this would be a little bit lower, maybe like 2. But I think the same trend applies here. I think everyone might say the same thing, even maybe to a lesser degree because it's Aaron Rodgers, the Packers. They've been there before. But I still think a lot of the public might bet Minnesota here. So I'd be all over Green Bay. I think Green Bay wins and covers this game and puts the sweat on Minnesota, who might actually blow the 2 seed to the Niners. And if the Packers get in, I think the Vikings would actually like that.
So I would pick the Vikings getting the points here just because pretty much every game is a 1-score game, usually a field goal game. So I think in that range there, the 3, I'll go with Minnesota for sure. I think this is going to be an under though, just because, of course, we think about the Vikings, they're so powerful offense with Jefferson and Cook and Cousins, but they really didn't do much offensively versus the Giants. The Packers offense hasn't been great this whole year. So I would play the under here, and I would play the Vikings +3. This is a pick 'em for me to win the game. I'm really not sure who's going to win this one. So I would probably no play that on the money line.
Just something about it, man. Minnesota cannot keep getting away with this. 11 wins by one score this year. Just something wrong.
It's going to be a close game. It's going to be right there in the fourth quarter, I think.
I would think so. I think Green Bay, it's cold weather. It's going to be cold probably this weekend outside. I just think Green Bay right now is hot, man. And, I don't know if the Vikings are going to beat them twice. I feel like Green Bay might get away with like a 6 or 7 point victory, and the Vikings finally lose a game by one score. I think they're due. And, Nick, we have a big Monday night here. We have the Buffalo Bills laying 1.5 at the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oof.
And, this is a huge game. It's a huge litmus test. This is something that could, for a lot of reasons, be an impactful game. Seeding, litmus test, like I said, ultimately could decide the MVP. If Patrick Mahomes, for whatever reason, stumbles over these last 2 weeks, and let's say one of the winning quarterback puts up 353 scores, it opens the door for the MVP race. Possibly could open up the door if the Bengals get the 1 seed. Do you think Cincinnati pulls this upset off, beats the Bills and the Chiefs this year?
Well, this is probably the best and the last Monday Night Football game of the year as far as what we have going into it. And this is just a tremendously huge game. There's really nothing. There's no way to circle around that there here. The Bengals, we know they have the Chiefs number. So now they just got to prove to themselves that they can beat the Bills, because they're either going to have to go through Buffalo or Kansas City to get to the Super Bowl. But I think in this one that the Bills are going to win this game. I think they are the better team all around. Obviously, big loss defensively recently with the injuries, but I'm going to take the Bills in this one, and I think it's going to be a very close game, though.
I'm with you. We actually agree on something today. I think the Bengals are going to win, and I think they're going to win, not convincingly, but they're going to play a much better game. How long have you known me? How long have you been I've been saying that Buffalo, I don't buy. I don't think they're a legit team. I think they have a lot of flaws covered up by Josh Allen, who is a great playmaker. He's a great quarterback. Just don't buy them. I think Cincinnati is the better team. They're playing good football. They're the hottest team in the league. They're the best against the spread team in the league. And as opposed to taking the money line, which is in the negative, I'd probably go an alt spread and take the Bengals -2.5 to get +110. Because I think at the end of the day, this could come down to a field goal last second.
Evan McPherson, that's our guy.
Yeah. Or maybe a late Joe Burrow touchdown to Jamar Chase with like 25 seconds left, and the Bengals play enough defense, and maybe the Bengals win by like 6, something like that. I think Cincinnati does get this. It's going to be interesting because right now, if everything stayed as is, it looks like that the Chargers would go to Cincinnati. And you heard me say with Corey Parson earlier today that I do think the Chargers will go into Cincinnati on Wild Card Weekend and pull off the victory. Remains to be seen, but Nick, we have a huge week here, and there's a lot of other good games. Do you have anything else that really intrigues you?
Yeah, I actually love the Saints +6.5 against the Eagles. The Eagles are going to probably going into the post game. I will say, though, last week, Gardner Minshew secured the MVP for Patrick Mahomes. He played good enough to show you that, is it really Jalen Hurts? Is the system? I don't know. So Mahomes, clear MVP, but that's the game that I would be betting for sure heading into this weekend. I think the Saints 6.5 shouldn't be a problem.
I would agree with you. It depends on what Jalen Hurts, though, right? I mean, if Hurts is back, I think if Jalen Hurts is back and he's right, I think we're going to see a real legit effort from the Eagles, because The fact of the matter is Philadelphia still needs to win to lock up the 1 seed. I think they're going to play hard, and depending on the health status of Hurts, I think if it's right, they're gonna put their best foot forward. They don't want to be stumbling into the playoffs, even with a bye. They don't want Jalen Hurts taking too much rest because, as a Kyle Shanahan will tell you, a team that gets the 1 seed and is off for the wild card week, it's tough sometimes to get it going again once you took your foot off the gas. It's very difficult. My game I'd probably look at, which segues, and I have a couple other ones. I like the Bears getting 5.5 at the Lions this week. It's a Royal Mint spot. Should the game close at 5 or 5.5, but as it right now, the Bears are a Royal Mint spot, which everybody knows is an automatic smash for me, as is the Colts. We'll talk maybe about that game in a second here, but Chicago should have beaten the Lions earlier in the year. Fields makes a terrible interception, pick six, turns the whole game. The Lions win by 1. But now Chicago is going into Detroit. And yes, I expect a similar kind of game as to the first go-around. And the Lions actually have something to play for, and the Bears are kind of just evaluating talent and still playing for a draft pick. But I think the Bears keep this to a 3-point game. I'm hoping Chicago wins because I don't want Detroit in the playoffs. But I could see Detroit pulling out this W. That I think the Bears don't lose by more than 3.
Well, the other thing I just wanted to touch on is that I think the Steelers are going to beat the Ravens this weekend. They're going to beat the Browns next weekend. They're actually going to make the playoffs at 9-8 for the 7th seed because Mike Tom was that damn good.
You think so?
That's what I think. They need a lot of other things to fall their way with other teams, but I think they're going to finish the season 9-8, which is crazy to think where they started. Yeah,
that would be interesting. We need to see the status on Lamar Jackson though, because that's a pivotal injury. Like Tyler Huntley, he's serviceable.
Ravens already clinched though. They can't get any hot. They can't. I don't think they can't catch the Bengals. I don't think. Maybe they could if the Bengals lost.
No, I think they can.
All right, so they're gonna try to play Lamar.
Yeah, they have to. They still have stuff to play for. They have the division to play for, which will probably be the 3 seed. Speaking of the Colts Giants, that's another Royal Mint spot as of right now. If it closes 5.5, the Colts are getting 5.5 on the road to New York. Nick Foles, they look terrible on Monday night. Yeah, let's bench Matt Ryan because he's the problem. Do you think the Giants would cover this spread? The Colts already failed in a Royal Mint spot earlier this year with Sam Ehlinger at the Patriots, which I wouldn't have backed because we all know what Belichick does to rookie quarterbacks. Do you think the Colts would pick it up this time around?
I have no faith in the Giants right now to cover a spread of more than 4 points. So I would bet the Colts in this one. But the Giants, they're going to win this game. At least they should. I mean, it'd be bad if they don't. But the Giants just have nothing offensively. So they're not going to score more than 2 touchdowns offensively. Happens every week. So it's going to be a low-scoring game. And I think the Colts, they should be able to at least score a little on this Giants defense. But that's how
I could see a super low-scoring game here. I could see like a 20-17 Giants victory. I kind of want the Giants to lose just so chaos ensues. But there's a lot of things that could happen. There's still a lot of things up in the air, but I think the Colts 5.5 Royal Mint doesn't usually lie to me. I think I'd probably go with Indianapolis for this one. So I think that kind of does it, right? For a lot of our good betting games that we have good views on that are pretty impactful. Like, I guess one more I'd really like to talk about, get your perspective, is Carolina Panthers on the road at Tampa Bay, basically for the division +3. If Tampa Bay wins, they lock it up. The Panthers win, they're still alive. Do you think the Panthers sweep the Bucs this season?
Well, I think in this game, we're looking at a vintage New York Jets-like Sam Darnold performance. So that's bad news for the Panthers. I think the Buccaneers, they'll be trailing late I don't know, it'll be like 17-10 or something, or 17-14, and then they'll take the lead at the last 2 minutes and win the game. Sam Darnold, I'm going to say, throws 2 interceptions in this one, and the Bucs somehow, some way, hobble to the finish line here, and they make the postseason.
I don't want to agree with you. I think the Panthers can beat the Bucs. Like, the Bucs are struggling with everybody right now. They struggle with the Cardinals with Trace McSorley. Like, I think Carolina could get this done. They have a formula. Like, Deontay Foreman runs his game. Brian Burns in that front seven gets pressure. You know, the secondary plays with some heart like they've been for the most part. I want to go with Carolina +3 here. I want to say they win this game. I'm going to lean with Carolina. It might just be like my heart talking, but it's like Tampa Bay is the worst team to bet on against the spread. Like, Tampa Bay's had so many easy matchups this year. We keep like saying, we're going to wait for them to wake up. This is going to be the week. This is the week they get back on track. It doesn't matter who they play. They have been playing down to their competition from a talent perspective all year long. Games they should be losing. Tampa Bay realistically should be like a 4-win team, maybe even 3 wins. They should have lost to the Saints 2 times. Maybe should have lost to the Falcons. Should have lost to the Rams. Should have lost to the Cardinals last week. They're winning games they should not be winning. Correct me if I'm wrong.
On the flip side, I would say that they should be like a 10-win team, but they have a really bad coach. So they just can't get out of their own way this season, and they're lucky to be where they are right now.
I would agree with that. And, it remains to be seen because this is a very crucial game. And, it's just going to tell us what we need to know. Like, if Tampa Bay wins this game and they barely beat Carolina, who is going to throw everything they had at them, like, let's say Tampa Bay, again, wins it, like, on the gun or at the gun with a field goal. Let's say it's like, let's say it's like a 16-13 game or let's say it's a 17-14 game or something like that. And, Brady leads another comeback and everybody slobbers all over him like he's unbelievable, like he's been terrible this year. Then, it's going to tell us again what we already know, that like the Bucs might be in trouble. Like, yeah, maybe they win a playoff game, but I don't think anybody's getting past the next round in the divisional round, whether that be the Cowboys or the Bucs or even the Panthers. So remains to be seen. On to the emerging player of the night. Brought to you by Emerge Sports Group, our boy J-Hen, Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver from the Minnesota Vikings. Not only is he one of my stallions in fantasy, he was my preseason offensive player of the year. I had him leading the league in yards. I had him getting at least 1,800 yards. This guy is 209 yards away from getting the all-time single-season receiving yards record. And he's about 250 yards away from 2,000, the first receiver to ever do it. I sure hope he gets it. This guy's been unbelievable. I think, we've officially entered him being the best wide receiver in football, and it's not recency bias because I've kind of been feeling this way. I'll be the first one to admit I thought Jefferson was going to have a down year last year, 2021. I just thought it's hard to replicate 1,400 yards. Sophomores a lot of times struggle. But he proved me wrong. Went over 1,600. I was wrong about that. And, I was not going to make the same mistake doubting him again. I think now 3 straight years of 1,400-plus yards. He's on the cusp of setting the single-season record. I think there's no question that we can now say Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in all of football. And it's not 1 year to the next. Like, I'll say that for the next few years, at least.
Fair enough. I need to see him break the records this week, though. An extra week, to me, it's kind of like takes away some things, So I want to see him do it this week. That's why, these passing records. I mean, Dan Marino would have had all the records if he got to play 17 weeks. So
for this era of football, I agree with you, man. I'm with you. I don't believe in the 17th game. I think it all has to be done in 16. But given what everybody thinks, I'm with you here. I'm with you. But I'll say this: if Jefferson has a dud, let's say Jefferson goes 5 for 45 against Green Bay this week, I think I think he's done. I think he's probably done, and I especially if the Vikings win, I might not be surprised. If they take it easy on him
next week,
in
or
week
not
8,
sit
not
pull
sit
him
him,
after the first half or something.
not sit him. Let him play like the first half just to not get rusty.
He needs to get like 120, 110-ish, 115 yards this week if he wants a shot.
I agree with that. I think he needs to clear another 110. Cold weather, I think he could do it wherever. I don't think it really matters for him. Although it seems like he's played a lot of his games indoors or in like warmer weather outside. But I'm always about Justin Jefferson. I think he could do it. That's my guy. He's an absolute dog. So let's go, Mr. Justin Jefferson. Nick, bring us home here with your final thoughts heading into Week 17 and the new year.
Well, Week 17, I wish this was the last week of the regular season, but it's not. So that's, we've said this many times on our show. We both don't like that Week 18. Heading into the new year here, I'm going to switch gears to baseball real quick. I want to see this Carlos Correa deal get done either with the Mets or with somebody else because it's dragging out a little too long right now. But we had a nice little hot stove before the holiday season. Everything got done, not much dragging on to next year. So looking forward to coming back with you in 2023 once the NFL season winds down and hear your futures bets because you were all over the Phillies last year. So let's see who you got in that genie ball moving into the next season.
Well, it's been a great year, man. Love doing the podcast with you and Joe, of course, and all of our great guests. It was another successful year, and I'm, glad we ended on a high note. This will be the last show of 2022, and we'll absolutely see you guys in 23. Really appreciate everybody supporting the podcast. And when we come back next week, we're going to start looking into the futures that I had in my portfolio, and we'll dissect them. And then obviously we're going to be looking at some playoff scenarios ahead of Wild Card Weekend. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. I'm at _JohnnyVTV. He's at Nick_Durst, even though I have Joe Calabrese here.
Follow Joe, too. He's on his way to Tampa Bay right now.
He is. Take care, everybody. Happy New Year. See you next year.